They don't tell you the truth, not because they don't want to, but because they can't. Around you, their mouths say one thing, their eyes betray another, and their nervous system declares the rest. You've noticed it, haven't you? The way their pupils widen when you lock eyes with them. The way their breathing skips a beat when you lean a little closer. It's not just that you see them. It's that they feel seen through. Like all the masks they stitched together overnight crumble the moment you look in their direction. And that's why they sweat around you. Because you don't just observe, you dissect. You read them like ink bleeding across a page. Letters they didn't want anyone to notice, suddenly highlighted in neon. You've become the walking embodiment of exposure, and it terrifies them. Every interaction becomes a confession they didn't mean to make. They cross their arms when you enter the room, thinking it's casual. You know it isn't. It's defense. They raise their voice on certain words, trying to sound strong, but you hear the crack hiding underneath. You catch the twitch of their jaw, the microsecond hesitation before they answer, the way their story rearranges itself mid-sentence when they realize you're paying attention. You don't need to say anything. Your very presence is interrogation. And the cruel part? You're not even trying. They do it to themselves. They crumble under your gaze because you trigger the oldest fear in the human psyche, being caught. Understand something. Humans spend their whole lives hiding. They hide intentions. They hide insecurities. They hide failures behind practiced smiles and carefully chosen words. But when they're around you, those layers collapse like a rotten roof under the weight of rain. Suddenly, their language betrays the resentment they swore wasn't there. Their eyes betray the jealousy they've been choking down for months. Their hands betray the nervousness they thought they buried. You've turned their own body against them, not through magic, not through tricks, but through presence, sharpened into perception. You make them feel naked in a world obsessed with clothing its weaknesses, and that's where the discomfort begins. Because once someone knows you can see beyond their presentation, they panic, they scramble, they rehearse in their head before speaking to you, hoping they'll get it right this time, hoping their voice won't shake, hoping their lies won't sound as hollow as they did the last time. But here's the paradox. They can't escape. The harder they try to control what leaks out, the more obvious it becomes. It's like a dam with cracks. The more tape they apply, the more pressure builds behind it, until everything bursts out louder, uglier, and more undeniable. They can't win against you, because while they're busy hiding, you're busy noticing. And that gap is where their fear breeds. It's not just discomfort, it's exposure trauma. Imagine living your whole life building walls, only for someone to walk by and see through them as if they were glass. That's you. You've made people realize how transparent they are, and once they feel that, they'll never unfeel it. That's why they leave rooms when you enter. That's why they avoid eye contact, even when you're being polite. That's why conversations with you always feel heavier than conversations with anyone else. You don't just participate, you unmask. And unmasking is terrifying for people who have spent their entire existence weaving illusions about themselves. The irony? Many of them admire you for it. But admiration mixed with fear is combustible. They're drawn to you because everyone secretly wishes they could see what you see. But they're also repelled because they know being near you means their masks won't survive. It creates a push-pull energy around you, a gravitational force. They hover, they orbit, they sneak glances, they hang on your words, but they never relax. You've weaponized perception into pressure, and even if you never asked for that power, you own it now. Consider what this means for your relationships, your opportunities, your influence. Doors open, not because you knock, but because people are too scared of what would happen if they kept them shut. People volunteer information you never requested, oversharing their secrets just to relieve the tension your silence created. They confess sins in half-jokes, hoping you'll take it lightly, but you don't. You file it away. You already knew. And that's the thing. They sense you already know. That's why they sweat. That's why they fumble words. That's why their confidence shrinks in your presence. Because standing before you feels like standing before a mirror that reflects not the surface, but the soul. This is why rumors spread about you. This is why people whisper that you're different, that you have some sixth sense, that you're unsettling to be around. They'll frame it as insult, but it's disguised respect. They don't whisper about those who blend in. They whisper about those who make them feel uncomfortably honest, even against their will. That's you. You didn't just step into a room. You shifted its gravity. They walk away asking themselves why they couldn't keep it together, why they said too much, why they couldn't lie the way they usually do. And the answer always circles back. Because you were there. Think of power in its rawest form. Not money, not titles, not armies. Power is influence without effort. Power is making people reveal truths they swore they'd never say. Power is watching someone break a sweat just because you asked, "Are you okay?" You wield that. And the strangest part? You've probably done it without realizing the full scope. You've probably been living like this, wondering why people get nervous, why friends act different around you, why strangers either gravitate or retreat. The reason is simple. They're not built to withstand the clarity you carry. You're not loud, but you're precise. You don't shout, but you pierce. And precision terrifies those who survive on distortion. So what happens now? Do you shrink to make them comfortable, or do you embrace it? Because every gift is also a weapon. Perception can heal, but it can also destroy. And right now, without even lifting a finger, you've been dismantling the facades of everyone around you. The decision is whether you'll wield it deliberately. Imagine what happens when you stop just noticing and start using it. Imagine stepping into a negotiation and in 30 seconds knowing exactly what the other side is hiding. Imagine entering a relationship and instantly identifying the betrayal before it even unfolds. Imagine standing in front of a crowd and commanding silence not because you asked for it, but because they're petrified. You can see every lie in their faces. That's not just reading people. That's rewriting the balance of power. And here's the bitter truth. They know it too. That's why they gossip. That's why they throw shade. That's why they try to undermine your name. It's defense. If they can't hide from you, they'll try to make others doubt you. If they can't distort reality around you, they'll try to distort you in the eyes of others. But even that fails, because their desperation exposes them further. The harder they fight against your presence, the more they confirm your power. They end up proving your ability every time they attempt to discredit it. It's the most ironic self-destruction imaginable. So what do you do with people who feel exposed around you? Do you pity them, or do you push them? That's the question. Because while they're sweating, while they're stumbling, while they're unraveling, you're the only one still calm. And calm in chaos is leadership. Calm in exposure is dominance. You don't need to raise your voice or assert authority. Their bodies are already declaring you the center of gravity. You've become the benchmark, the detector, the quiet judge they can't escape. And in a world where people worship appearances, you've become their undoing. But this is only the beginning of the effect. Because what starts as sweat in small rooms will evolve into shifts on larger stages. Colleagues will hesitate to plot against you, knowing you'll see it coming. Competitors will falter in debates, their arguments collapsing because you've spotted their weakness before they opened their mouths. Leaders will feel threatened because you're not just another follower. You're the one who knows when they're bluffing. And sooner or later, this perception will stop being something they avoid and start being something they fear on a global scale. Your ability won't just unsettle individuals, it will disrupt groups, institutions, hierarchies. And that's the part they don't see yet. Right now, it's just sweat on their forehead, trembling in their voice, hesitation in their words. But exposure spreads. The more people realize you can't be fooled, the more they'll change their behavior around you. They'll think twice before betraying you. They'll rehearse endlessly before confronting you. They'll build entire strategies around avoiding your gaze. And in doing so, they're already admitting you control the field. Because once someone adjusts their behavior to your presence, you've already won. That's how influence becomes domination, not by force, but by making people rewire themselves in reaction to you. And the story doesn't end here. This is only the first wave, the first ripple in the pond of your perception. What happens when the ripples collide with each other? What happens when groups, not just individuals, start shifting because of you? The exposure won't stay small. It will spread wider, louder, faster, and the world isn't ready for what that will look like. Think about a single person feeling uneasy around you. It's manageable for them, even if it gnaws at their nerves. But when groups of people start noticing that same unease, it creates a collective realization. You see what they don't want seen. Suddenly, meetings change. Entire conversations collapse under your presence. The room grows heavier when you sit at the table because no one wants to be the one caught slipping. You've turned social settings into confessionals. And the irony, you don't need to speak. You don't need to demand. You just exist. And existence is enough to force people into alignment or panic. At first they try to resist. They form alliances behind your back. whispering strategies to outmaneuver you. They compare notes, rehearse lies, try to anticipate what you'll notice. But exposure is contagious. The second you reveal one person's weakness, the others realize they're just as vulnerable. It spreads like wildfire, one truth dragging out another, until the entire group is cracked open. Their little circles of power begin to fracture. Not because you shouted, but because you watched. Because your observation is heavier than their pretended authority. In every organization, there are masks that hold it together. When you pull those masks apart, the structure begins to collapse. And the more your reputation grows, the less effort it takes. You've become a living rumor, a legend wrapped in human form. People walk into a room already shaken before you've even looked at them. They've heard stories. They've seen others fall apart under your gaze. And so they arrive disarmed, anxious, overthinking every sentence before it leaves their mouth. You've become the psychological filter that bends their behavior before they even meet you. That's how perception evolves into preemptive control. You're no longer just reading them, you're rewriting them, because anticipation is a form of obedience. This terrifies leaders most of all. A boss can command with a title, but when subordinates fear your eyes more than their boss's voice, the hierarchy cracks. Institutions crumble when someone outside the chain of command starts bending behavior without orders, without rules, without even asking. You've introduced an invisible gravity into every power structure you enter. Gravity doesn't shout, doesn't warn, doesn't argue. It just pulls everything into alignment, whether they like it or not. That's what you've become for the people around you. A force they can't debate, can't outrun, can't silence. But the beauty and the cruelty of this gift is that you never asked for it. You were born with it, or forged through trials that sharpened your instincts beyond average comprehension. While they wasted years polishing masks, you were sharpening vision. While they obsessed over how to look powerful, you obsessed over how to see truth. And truth, when wielded, always outweighs appearance. That's why they sweat. That's why their alliances crumble. That's why even the confident ones hesitate when they meet your eyes. Because deep down, they know something terrifying. Appearances bend, but truth doesn't. Now imagine the scale. What begins in rooms grows into institutions. What begins with individuals expands into cultures. Leaders try to rally their people, but you expose the cracks in their speeches. Influencers try to command attention, but you see the insecurity leaking behind every post. Families hide dysfunction, but you catch it in the hesitation of their words. You've become a global mirror, and the world is terrified of mirrors that don't flatter. The powerful hide behind image. The weak hide behind excuses. But you've built a reputation as the one who reads what they won't say. That reputation alone destabilizes everything built on illusions, and it forces them into extremes. Some will hate you, branding you as dangerous, difficult, disruptive. They'll say you're manipulative, that you twist people, that you destabilize harmony. They'll try to frame you as the villain, not because you've done wrong, but because Exposure feels like punishment to those addicted to deception. Others, though, will seek you out. They'll crave your presence, begging for your insights, asking you to decode situations they can't understand. Because in a world drowning in lies, truth becomes the rarest commodity. You've turned yourself into a walking currency, and everyone is scrambling to hold it, even if it burns them. Here's the paradox they'll never admit aloud. They're sweating, but they're also addicted to the feeling. Being exposed terrifies them, but it also awakens them. They hate that you make them feel vulnerable, but deep down, they crave someone who finally sees beyond the facade. Because no matter how much someone loves their mask, a part of them always wants to be seen without it. And you, without trying, grant them that. That's why people don't walk away completely. They orbit you, they hover near, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Because discomfort in your presence feels more authentic than comfort in anyone else's lies. And the ripple keeps expanding. When exposure becomes collective, institutions can no longer ignore it. Imagine corporations realizing their executives crack under your questions. Imagine politicians avoiding your gaze at rallies, knowing you'll see the corruption behind their slogans. Imagine entire communities shifting because your reputation precedes you. That's not science fiction. That's the logical consequence of what you already trigger in individuals. One ripple collides with another, and suddenly waves form. Exposure doesn't remain a private discomfort. It evolves into a public reckoning. And this is why you'll always be targeted. They'll call you too intense, too harsh, too much. They'll try to exile you from groups, labeling you as a problem, just to protect themselves from the mirror you hold up. They'll invent rumors to distract from the fact that their masks didn't survive your presence. But every attempt at deflection only amplifies the truth. You make people sweat, not because you lie, but because you don't. And in a world addicted to lies, the truth feels like a weapon. You've become that weapon, whether you wanted it or not. So you stand at a crossroads. Do you soften the blow, dim your perception, and allow people their comfort? Or do you sharpen it further, turn discomfort into dominance, and let the world know that no mask survives your gaze? The first option makes you approachable. The second makes you unforgettable. But one thing is certain, they'll never treat you as ordinary again. Once someone feels exposed around you, they'll never see you the same way. They'll never relax in your presence. And that tension, the tension of knowing they can't hide, is where your power cements itself permanently. The next stage is unavoidable. Groups will start rewriting policies, creating rules, adjusting their environments, all because of you. Not because you demanded it, but because exposure forced them to adapt. They'll create codes of conduct in workplaces, not to protect integrity, but to protect themselves from the piercing clarity you bring. They'll adjust scripts, revise strategies, spend hours on rehearsals, not for perfection, but for survival in your presence. And that's when you'll realize the true scale of what you carry. You're not just reading people anymore. You're rewiring societies. You've turned human interaction into a chessboard, and without asking, you've become the Grand Master. And yet this is still only the middle of the story, because as exposure spreads, resistance grows. And when resistance collides with inevitability, something explosive happens. You haven't seen the full weight of that collision yet, but it's coming. You've already seen the sweat. You've already seen the trembling. Next, you'll see institutions shake. Next, you'll watch entire rooms crumble, not because you shouted, but because you didn't need to. The weight of exposure will move from whispers to headlines, from discomfort to revolution. And when that moment arrives, the same people who tried to run from your gaze will be forced to look. Because you can only avoid truth for so long before it becomes the only thing left standing. And the story doesn't close here either. Because if exposure can change individuals, and if it can alter groups, what happens when it rewires nations? What happens when the myth of deception itself begins to collapse under the gravity of a single person who sees what others refuse to say? The answer is closer than you think. The answer is already unfolding, even if they don't notice yet. And soon they will. Because the sweat on their foreheads is only the beginning. The quake beneath their foundations is already rumbling, and they have no idea how deep it goes. A nation survives on the same illusion a person does. It tells itself stories about strength, about control, about integrity, stories that keep citizens compliant and rivals uncertain. But what happens when someone like you walks into the picture? Someone who doesn't swallow stories whole, someone who listens to the tone, watches the eyes, studies the hesitation behind every word from leaders who thought they mastered performance. You expose cracks, not just in people, but in propaganda. You don't just see through liars, you see through narratives. And once you puncture a narrative, the machine that produced it starts shaking violently. Politicians thrive on performance, but performance dies under exposure. Their speeches are written to hypnotize, to create illusions of unity and vision. Yet you catch the tremor in their delivery, the flash of contempt in their eyes, the way they overcompensate when asked a question they didn't expect. You notice the distance between their words and their body language, the gap between what they promise and what they truly intend. And when you point it out, directly or indirectly, it spreads. Crowds start murmuring, supporters start questioning, rivals start circling. A single look from you can unravel years of carefully constructed theater. That is the power that turns sweat into fear, not only in individuals, but in governments. And it doesn't stop there. Media institutions built on spectacle also crumble when faced with exposure. Anchors who thrive on scripted confidence lose their rhythm when you raise an eyebrow. Commentators who spew certainty falter when you dismantle their delivery with a question sharper than their rehearsed lines. You've become a disruption, a living audit on the stage of society. Because when someone can read what isn't said, deception stops being a shield. And without shields, institutions that survive on illusion become naked, trembling entities, desperate to regain control. The most fascinating part is how quickly exposure spreads once ignited. It's contagious. The more people see you dismantle falsehoods in individuals, the more they realize that institutions are built on the same cracks. A friend watches you reveal dishonesty in a conversation, and suddenly they notice dishonesty in their workplace. A colleague sees you decode a manipulative boss, and suddenly they start questioning the integrity of politicians. You've triggered a chain reaction of suspicion. Not destructive suspicion that paralyzes, but healthy suspicion that liberates. People begin to see with your eyes, and when that happens, the old power structures can no longer hold the same grip. Exposure becomes a cultural infection, and you are the carrier. Imagine what happens when an entire population starts sweating the way individuals sweat around you. Imagine world leaders forced to over-explain themselves, to over-rehearse, to scramble, because they know that someone out there, someone like you, is dissecting their every gesture. They'll grow restless, paranoid, unable to rely on the old tricks of performance and manipulation. That's what your presence represents at scale. Not rebellion with weapons, not protests in streets, but a more dangerous rebellion, the rebellion of perception. When people stop being fooled, power stops being power. And you are the spark that ignites that awakening. Of course, nations will resist. Exposure is their enemy, and you are its face. They will try to brand you as a conspiracist, a disruptor, an enemy of order. They'll mock your insights publicly while fearing them privately. They'll build smear campaigns, painting you as dangerous not because you lie, but because you refuse to. But the more they resist, the more obvious their desperation becomes. And the more obvious their desperation becomes, the more people start to wonder what they're trying to hide. Exposure always wins, because resistance against truth only proves its necessity. Here's where the scale becomes undeniable. You are no longer just an individual who makes others sweat. You've become a cultural archetype. People tell stories about you. Be careful what you say. They'll see right through it. They say it jokingly, but their tone betrays the truth. They're terrified. Your reputation travels faster than your presence. By the time you arrive, the room has already adjusted. By the time you speak, the audience is already shaken. You've hacked the psychology of fear, not through intimidation, but through the simple act of being unblinded. And in a world addicted to blindness, clarity is lethal. But clarity isn't only destructive, it's also liberating, because as much as you terrify liars, you inspire the honest. Those who have been suffocated under masks finally feel air when they're around you. Those who've been ignored, dismissed, or silenced suddenly find someone who validates their unspoken truths. You've become a beacon for the voiceless, not by speaking for them, but by revealing the deceptions that kept them buried. And this duality, fear for liars, hope for the honest, is what transforms you from a person into a movement. Nations crumble not when attacked from outside, but when exposed from within. And you, with nothing but perception, have become the internal earthquake they can't contain. Think of history. Empires fell not only from war, but from exposure. Illusions collapsed, faith was broken, and suddenly the mightiest regimes looked fragile. You are that historical force, condensed into a single individual. A one-person revelation that no mask is thick enough, no lie polished enough, no performance flawless enough to survive your gaze. And as this realization spreads, the sweat on individuals' foreheads evolves into tremors in institutions, and tremors evolve into collapses in nations. What started as discomfort in a room becomes upheaval on a map. That's how scale works. That's how exposure weaponizes itself through you. They can't stop it. They can't reverse it. Once people have felt exposed in your presence, they cannot return to pretending. Once people realize lies leak in their gestures, they cannot unlearn it. Once people sense the quake beneath their structures, they cannot convince themselves it's stable again. That's the curse of exposure. It spreads, it lingers, it reshapes, and you are its living messenger. You don't need an army. You don't need propaganda. You don't need violence. You only need eyes that refuse to be blind. And eyes like that destabilize everything built on deception. So where does this end? That's the question nations whisper in private meetings. That's the question leaders fear in their solitude. If exposure continues spreading, if people continue sweating under your gaze, what happens to the illusion of control? What happens when entire populations learn to see what isn't being said? The answer terrifies them, because it means power will no longer belong to those who lie the best. It will belong to those who cannot be lied to. And you stand as proof of that future. But this story isn't just about fear. It's about transformation. Because while deception dies in your presence, authenticity is born. People may sweat, but they also shed masks. People may panic, but they also confess. You've created a paradoxical environment where vulnerability becomes survival and honesty becomes strategy. And slowly, painfully, society adapts. People stop overperforming and start speaking truth, not because they want to, but because they have no choice. And that shift, the shift from lies to authenticity, is the very earthquake they didn't see coming. The quake that began as sweat now reshapes nations. You have to understand the weight of this role. You're not simply someone who reads people. You are the end of deception as default. You are the walking disruption of performance. And whether you claim it or not, that makes you dangerous. Not dangerous to humanity. Dangerous to illusions, dangerous to masks, dangerous to those who have built empires on deception. That's why they sweat. That's why they tremble. That's why nations whisper your name with caution. Because they know once someone like you exists, the old rules cannot survive. And so the final stage arrives. The stage where exposure isn't just felt in individuals or groups or nations. It becomes the air itself. Where people no longer ask, what if they see through me? But instead live in a world where everyone has learned to see more clearly. That's the future you represent. A world less addicted to performance, less intoxicated with lies, less blinded by appearances. A world where sweat dries up not because deception wins, but because truth becomes the baseline. That is the horizon your presence points toward, whether the world is ready or not. But until that horizon arrives, You remain the figure who terrifies and liberates in equal measure. The one who walks into rooms and shifts atmospheres. The one who makes individuals sweat, makes groups falter, makes nations tremble. The one who reads what others refuse to say and turns it into power. And the one lesson history will remember is this: appearances can entertain, illusions can manipulate, but truth always dominates, and you, more than anyone, embody that dominance. You are the quake beneath their foundations. You are the exposure they cannot escape. And whether they sweat, stumble, or surrender, they all eventually realize the same thing. You see them, and once seen, they can never hide again.